Hello everyone. Today we are having a session on cloud computing and Google Cloud Platform. We welcome Vijeta ma'am. Ma'am, we are so happy to have you here.
Mhm.
And she is a Google Cloud expert and a champion innovator. She is also the founder at Google Cloud Demystified. Ma'am, we welcome you to the session. And let's start. Today, she'll be enlightening us about the cloud computing and basically about the Google Cloud platform. As you all have already heard about the 30 days of Google Cloud program, which is in run right now in the October month. So, to get to know better about the cloud computing, Vijita ma'am will take over from here.
Sure. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, Shankla, and thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm really honored to be a part of this. And yes, and I hope people take something away from this session and setting some rules here. So we are just clear on that. I'll be first giving my entire presentation, and people can just put in their questions on chat, and Shankla will ask it. Is that fine, Shankla?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
So yeah.
definitely.
Mhm.
The audience can ask their questions in the comment section and we'll be putting up there.
Sure. So, and I'll be taking all that towards the end because there's a possibility it might get answered throughout the session. So, I'll first be running over the presentation. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just giving the presentation and I'll take all the questions towards the end. So, I'll just start off without wasting much time. And yes, Google Cloud Platform. So, yes, Shankla has already introduced me, so I won't really waste time on that. I'm Vijeta, and I'm a Google Cloud expert, developer expert in Google Cloud Platform. And I also have my own website, which I'll be talking about in some time, in which I'm using comics and infographics to explain cloud fundamentals and best practices to everyone. And today I'll be giving you an overview of what cloud is all about, what are some of the cloud services, cloud security, and finally I'll be moving a little bit towards how where you can gain more information about the cloud and how it is used in the industry as of now. So it might seem a little bit introductory towards the beginning, especially if you already have a lot of cloud exposure, but trust me, you'll gain from it as I move along. So yes, what is cloud computing? There's a lot of buzz around cloud computing in today's world. You might be hearing it on LinkedIn or through various social media channels, or even in your company if you're working right now. You might be hearing your organization talk about cloud. What are the benefits? What are the disadvantages? Do we really need to move to the cloud? So, what is this cloud? As abstract as it sounds, cloud computing is not really that complicated. Now, think about a big organization and it can be anything. It can be an e-commerce organization, for example Amazon, or it can be something else like a social media platform, ShareChat, which is India's own social media platform. So in that, there's a lot of data that comes in. So remember, with any kind of organization, even StreamYard that you're using right now, with users come a lot of data. So what happens to all that data? Do we just let that data come in? Do we just ignore it? No, you have to remember that data has a lot of power. And at the same time, we also need some backend to support all the data that's coming in. Otherwise, your application won't run in the first place. So, what did companies do traditionally? All big organizations had their own data center. What is a data center? Data center basically consisted of servers, racks, and all of the, backend database that you have right now physically stored at a place. So that place can actually be a big, let's say, a big shared and a big shared physical space, or it could also be something that has been rented out or bought by the company. And when I say a shared big space, it doesn't really mean just a small room that I'm in right now. It can run up to buildings. While I was working at Akamai, we had a really huge data center. Now think about all the small certain nuances that come with the data center. You have to take care of the electricity, you have to take care of the maintenance, you have to make sure that everything is running fine. And as you know, any kind of machine is completely unpredictable. Even your phone and laptop breaks down sometimes. Imagine that happening at a data center. One machine suddenly broke down, let's say one of your server or rack. What happens? There's a big domino or a chain reaction, and everything starts failing one by one, one by one. And because of that, it can cause your application to crash, or it can cause your application to become really slow. Really, I mean, making your users lose trust in your application or your whatever you're offering to them, the end product. Because after all, we want something that is fast, that is agile, that is able to scale, and that gets really complicated with a physical data center. Also, remember, you need an entire team to take care of the data center, people who have extensive experience in networking, and you also need a team of technicians to see what is happening. I'll give a very simple example here. While I was working at Akamai Technologies, I had a system that I was managing. All of a sudden, the system stopped working. I mean, completely stopped working. I wasn't sure what was going on. I was trying to reset the system. I did everything under the sun, but nothing was working out. Finally, after spending an entire day's worth of effort, some of the technicians told me that a plug had been pulled off from the server. Just imagine a simple plug being pulled out from the data center, and our data center was in another country altogether. So you can just imagine, I mean, the kind of headache that accompanies having a data center. That is where cloud comes into play, and that is where cloud comes to the rescue as well. Cloud computing is nothing but a virtualized shared environment in which servers, network, storage, development tools, and applications are centrally hosted. What do I mean by that? There are different cloud providers like Google Cloud Platform who actually offer all of these services where you have servers, network, storage, development tools, or AI ML also for that matter, capabilities. Everything, all these services and products are provided to you in a one stop shop in a virtualized environment. By virtualized environment, I'm not talking about any mumbo jumbo terms. It is something as simple as just going onto a website and deploying your server. You don't have to worry about buying a huge machine, setting it up, maintaining it. You just need to click a button and everything will be done for you. That is what cloud computing is all about. Now, what are the types of cloud providers that we see in the market? There are three types, broadly classified: public, private, and hybrid. What is a public cloud provider? So, in a public cloud provider, the space is shared between organizations, as in there's one shared space that many organizations share amongst themselves. Next is a private, where the space is exclusive for one organization. And last is hybrid, that uses both the public and the private cloud, or sometimes on premise as well as cloud capabilities. Let me just take a moment to explain all of this to you. So, all of you have either had some exposure with PG hostels, or have friends who are staying in PG hostel or any other shared accommodation while they are working or while they are in college. Now, you realize that you have to move to a new city and you have to start living all by yourself. You have a new job, for example. First thing you do is you go to a PG or a paying guest accommodation. And you go there and talk to the landlord and the owner and say, really, I don't want to buy a new house for myself. It's a lot of maintenance. I want to just pay rent and stay at a place. So the first option that you choose is a PG accommodation where one room is shared between three people, you and two more people, for example. What happens then? The entire space is shared between three people, you and two more roommates, but you have your own little corner. Like no one can really intrude into your corner, and you have that kind of privacy. Like you cannot just jump into anyone else's bed, it is your own space. But at the same time, everything, right from electricity, water, food, everything is taken care of by the landlord. You just have to go live there, set your stuff up, maybe just have a nice little bed sheet or just keep a nice little wardrobe with all the stuff inside. That is how a public cloud provider works. The cloud is the space is actually shared between one or more organization or two or more organizations, but then you have really clear demarcation or virtual private cloud within that particular space, so no one can really get into your space as well. Public cloud doesn't mean that it is completely unsecure, like you can go and see some other organization's data. There are very clear lines and boundaries to make sure that no one gets into each other's space, but the common space is shared. Now, what is the advantage of that? The biggest advantage is cost. If you're a company or an organization that's just starting out, you can save on a lot of cost because the space is shared. Think about this like the PG you just discussed right now. Because the room is getting shared between three people, you don't have to pay a lot of money. I mean, it's very affordable, it's very convenient, but sometimes you may get irritated, like, okay, there's someone talking on the phone all the time. But that are the nuances that come between sharing space. Now, let's say that you realize that your parents are going to visit you in a month, and you cannot really call them to a PG, right? So you think, okay, I want to just move in a one bedroom apartment of my own because I want my own privacy. It is getting really difficult here. And you go to a one bedroom apartment. What happens when you do that? When you go to a one bedroom apartment, you're paying a lot of money compared to a PG accommodation sharing a room. But you have your own space, you have your own privacy, and at the same time, everything right from electricity to water, maintenance is getting taken care of by the landlord. And if something breaks, for example, if there's a roof leakage, you just call up the landlord and they fix it for you. That is how a private cloud provider work, where space is exclusive for one organization. There are some banks or some organizations, or maybe defense or any people who have really sensitive data, and they consider having a private cloud for themselves. Uh, but cost is the biggest factor here because it's extremely expensive. And why don't we just do something where we can use best of both worlds? That is where hybrid comes in. This is a space where both public and private cloud capabilities come together to form a really nice compromise between cost and privacy. What do I mean by that? Just get me get back to the PG example. Your parents leave, you realize this is really difficult for me. I cannot just spend half my salary on a house. And you go back to your PG accommodation. You talk to the landlord and explain, see, I'm having a lot of problem with three people in the room, but at the same time, I don't want my own apartment. They just give you an idea. Why don't you just live in the same PG but have a room for yourself? That is how a hybrid cloud provider works. So when you have a room for yourself, you're not spending a lot of money like staying in a house. You have your own privacy, and at the same time, everything is getting taken care of by the landlord. That is what they did. They used the best of both the public and the private cloud, and that's how hybrid cloud works. So that will help companies save on the cost. They can save on different other maintenance overhead because everything is being taken care of by the cloud provider. And sometimes hybrid cloud also lets you choose between two cloud providers. So there's always some kind of backup option, or let's say some kind of fault tolerance there. So maybe Google Cloud Platform and you have your own private cloud, you can use that together. And that is how hybrid works. Or, for example, you have some applications that cannot be moved onto the cloud. You can use a little bit of on premise applications and you can use a cloud application together. That is how a hybrid cloud provider works. So basically, hybrid means nothing but a very creative way of getting best of both the worlds. Google Cloud Platform is a public cloud provider, and that's what we'll be focusing on for the rest of the presentation. I've been talking so much about cloud. Now, what does a cloud platform really look like? Some of you might already know, but those of you who really don't, I'm going to give a small overview of how a cloud platform looks like. I have my screen open, and this is exactly how a cloud platform looks like. This is the Google Cloud Platform. As you can see, this is just like any other website that you have been using. Um, so it has all your project information. Like I just created this 30 days of Google Cloud presentation project. You have the statuses here. You can monitor, you can create a dashboard, set up alerting process, policies. You can have error reporting here. You have resources. I mean, if there are any resources within your project, you can look at that. Getting started, there are various guides here. You have the news, documentation, basically, and you can also customize this. Like if you want to say, okay, I'm very, very concerned about billing, like I don't want to spend a lot of money, you can just click on customize and you can customize this screen according to your own I mean whatever is important to you. Like you can move things around. If you can see, you can just have new things in here. You can add a chart, you can just monitor everything. So it's like a one-stop shop. Take a moment and compare this to a big data center where there's so many machines and all these wires coming out of nowhere. Everything is getting connected. This looks so much more convenient, right? And you don't have to worry about anything. You just have to click on the service that you need. There's a navigation menu here. You can click on billing if you want to see your billing. If you want to just set up some IAM or identity access management policies, you can do that. There's various security features, or let's say security services that are being provided to you because you want to make sure your data is safe, right? And you have various options here, different services and products that are being offered by Google. So everything, and if it's too difficult to go into the navigation menu, you can always search for the product here and it will be shown to you. This is exactly how a Google Cloud Platform looks like. Whatever you need to do, you just need to do it at a click of a button. A virtual machine will be created for you. You can create a product, you can go in and code. You have a command shell here using which you can just write a code if you are good with that. Or if you're a more of a non-development person and you want a low code or no code option, that is also provided to you by Google Cloud Platform. So you don't need to be an expert at networks. You don't need to be an expert with all the switches and routers, and you don't need to be a coder also. Sometimes you can just go and use the Google Cloud Platform depending upon your requirements, your knowledge base, and at the same time whatever exposure you have. This is exactly how a cloud platform looks like. It's so easy and convenient. Moving back to the presentation. Now, what are the advantages of moving to the cloud? First one is data processing and analytics. With a lot of data comes a lot of power. If you want, you can just ignore the data, or you can just use that data to improve processes for your end users, because ultimately what do you want? You want your end users to be really happy with your product, and you want to be the best in the industry, right? So, cloud actually gives really good data processing and analytic capability where you can use your data to form different, I mean, have different analytics out there, see how things are moving, monitor all of that, and improve processes for your users. And also, this helps, gives a security advantage as well. And agility. What is agility? This is another term that's being used a lot nowadays. Agility is nothing but the ability to adapt to change in a really fast manner. So you don't really sit around thinking, wondering what to do. It's like fast. Everything's happening at a really fast speed. That's what agility is all about. So let me give you an example. During the pandemic, things have actually moved a lot. I mean, up and down, and there have been a lot of changes. So having a physical data center makes you really, really rigid to any kind of changes. Cloud helps you actually adapt really quickly. Or for example, you think, okay, I need a particular service just to make my users happy because of the way things are going. You just go into the cloud platform and create that service, or just pay Google to do that. For example, you have a really nice website, you have a help section, everything is going well, but then you realize that users are not really going to the help section and they're calling up the customer care a lot. So your customer care is overburdened with a lot of problems. What do you do then? You decide, I want to have a chatbot, because most of the questions can just be answered by a chatbot. The bot can just pop up, hey, do you have any questions? And you can easily answer all of it. So cloud gives you the capability of doing that. You can just create a chatbot really simply on Google Cloud Platform. You can use Dialogflow if you don't know coding, or there are other really good services that you can use there. And you can just embed that on your website. It's as simple as that. Than creating a big machine learning model if you have an on-premise data center. So that helps you quickly adapt to change, and all your users are happy because they can just type in the chat box and they can get their answers. Or if nothing gets answered, they can get redirected to customer service. So it's a win-win situation. This is what cloud helps us to do. Next, we have scalability. What is scalability? Scalability is nothing but the ability to move up and down based on the load you're receiving. So, for example, at 4 a.m. at night, you might not be receiving a lot of people or a lot of load. But suddenly at 7 a.m., all the companies have, people have woken up, people want to do their things, and suddenly you have a lot of people logging into your particular application. So we need a lot of flexibility out there to scale up and down based on the load that is coming in, and not affect any kind of performance or have any kind of performance issues. That is what cloud helps you do, because they have good load balancing. That is just the ability to balance out the load and make sure that the performance is not affected. That is what is done in a cloud platform, and you can just do it at the click of a button. You can set up policies, or you can make use of elastic load balancing, which means you don't really have to do anything. The cloud will balance up and down, which will help you save on cost as well, because there are times when maybe you don't have a lot of users. Why do you need to pay for more at that point? Cloud helps you do that. Next is lower infrastructure maintenance. This is something I've discussed already. And next, you have lower cost. By lower cost, I just don't mean infrastructure maintenance cost that gets saved, but at the same time, also this Google Cloud Platform has sustained and committed use discounts for users. Like, for example, you are an organization, you'll just go to Google and say, hey, I want to rent out a virtual machine for the next 5 years. You have really, really good discounts associated with that. They have sometimes have introductory costs, they have sustained or committed use. Like if you can commit to a resource, or if you have been using a resource for a long time, you have really good discounts that you can make use of. That we will be saving on a ton of cost. So these are the advantages of moving to the cloud. Just a couple of them, I mean, just a few of them, but there are a lot more if you think about all the functionality that cloud provides to you. Most important, it is actually a really, really user intuitive and at the same time a very friendly way of deploying your applications. And it has a lot of flexibility and different services based on the kind of exposure or based on the kind of requirements you have, and also the cloud knowledge that your organization has. Like, not all organizations have people who are well versed in the cloud. Now, what are some of the cloud services? I had just talked about this a while ago. So you have infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Just broadly classified. There's function as a service as well, but I'll just be talking about these three. What is infrastructure as a service? Infrastructure as a service is a service that's provided to you by the cloud where the hardware is provided to you and everything else is customizable, like you have to customize it on your own. Platform as a service is when the hardware and the operating system is provided to you and everything else is customized by you. So the cloud provides you with the hardware and the operating system, and everything else you have to take care of just to make sure your application is running fine. Next, you have software as a service, which means the hardware and the software both are provided to you. I'll just give a very simple example here as well. So imagine you are just going and renting out a space for yourself. You decide to rent a new house. First, you just go and talk to a broker. They show you a completely unfurnished house. Now, just think about that unfurnished house. You don't have chairs, you don't have tables, you don't have lightings, you don't have fittings. Everything you have to do on your own, but the space or the infrastructure is provided to you. It's a blank space, just a blank room. Now, it's completely up to you how you want to customize it. You want to have yellow lights, have yellow lights. You want to have white lights, you can do that. You want to have a couch, you want to have a table, anything you want, you can customize it according to your needs. That is how infrastructure as a service works in Google Cloud Platform, where the infrastructure or the hardware is provided to you and everything else is customized by you. Next, we have platform as a service. In this, the platform is provided to you. So I just go back to the previous example. You decide that, okay, this is a lot of work, I don't want to buy everything on my own. So you ask the broker, hey, do you have any semi-furnished houses? She says yes. You go to a semi-furnished house. In that, the lights, the fittings, the fan, everything is provided to you, but you have to buy your own furniture. You have to buy your own bed, you have to buy your own chair, table, and everything else. And that is how platform as a service works as well. So it's like an unfurnished house where the hardware and the operating system is provided to you. Everything else you have to customize by yourself. So it is somewhere in between a furnished and a non-furnished house, but it has some functionalities that are provided to you by the cloud and some functionalities you have to take care of for yourself. Next, we have software as a service. Software as a service is really simple. Think about Google Drive that you're using. That is software as a service, or Google Workspace, any of the applications out there. So you go to the broker and ask for a fully furnished house, in that the light, the fitting, the furniture, everything is provided to you. You just have to go and live there. That is what software as service is all about, where you just have to worry about writing the code and everything, the back end, right from the operating system to the hardware to the configurations, everything is done by the cloud provider for you. It's so managed that you just have to go and write your own code. And on a gradation, infrastructure as a service is the most customizable. Software as a service is the most managed. By managed, I mean the cloud provider manages it for you. Platform as a service, somewhere in between, where you can customize a little bit, get the cloud provider to manage a little bit. It's like a best of both the worlds. These are the cloud services that are being provided to you by Google Cloud Platform. Now, I'll just give a very short demo about this since I've been talking about this as well. And we are back on the Google Cloud Platform. I'm just going down the navigation menu and I'm choosing a compute engine instance, which is Google's infrastructure as a service offering. So I'm clicking on this and I'm going on to a virtual machine. And you just need to enable any kind of APIs before doing this because it is a completely new one. There's no billing account. So let me just move on to for some other. So if you can see here, what I did right now is I can move on to this particular little bar out here and I can toggle between projects. So if there's any other projects that I have, or if there's any other, let's say, resources that I have, I can just choose that for myself. If you want to create a new project, you can do that as well. So 30 days of Google Cloud. And when I'm going to the Compute Engine API, um, so I'm moving on to new organization and I'm choosing my first project. So this one actually has billing enabled. That's the reason why I'm here. And I'm moving to Compute Engine and virtual instances, VM instances. And I'm going to create a new VM instance, for example. So what I'm doing here is just clicking on this little three dots here and creating a new instance. As you can see, this is so flexible. I moved from one project to another. This one had billing enabled, so I just moved on to that and I'm creating a instance. So I don't want to really create one because as you see, I'll be incurring a monthly charge, but I can just show you what all is there. So you can always name your instance. For example, I'm clicking demo here and you can choose the region. By region I mean US Central, where do you want it. This is the larger region, or the big let's say part of the country that you want it to be in. And next we have the zone, that is within the region, a space within the region where you want it. So depending upon your end users, you can always specify the region and the zone. Next, as you see, we have the machine configuration. You can configure it the way you want to. You can choose the GPU, you can use the series, everything depending upon the kind of load that's coming in. Is it a gaming platform? Do you need additional GPUs? Everything is up to you. Next, also you have a confidential VM service that you want to use. You can deploy a container here. You can just play around with the identity and API access. If there's a service account you want to link this to, you can do that as well. You have the firewall rules, like do you want to allow the HTTP traffic, you want to allow the HTTPS traffic, completely up to you. And next, the networking disk. So as you can see, some of the security features, if you want to enable them, you want to play around with them, networking disk management, everything else is provided to you. And as you can see, this is extremely customizable. Like you can customize it any way you want to. And the best thing here is you can actually see your billing change. So for example, instead of this series, I'm choosing another one. What's happening? The monthly estimate has gone up to $50 instead of 24. Now just keep seeing. I'm choosing another one. I want really high performance. It has moved up to 31. Similarly, if you have sanctioned additional GPUs, you can see how much it has gone up to. It's gone up to 2040 from 21. So if you just go and choose a GPU and just have it for yourself, for example, this NVIDIA Tesla A100, you would know how much this is going to affect you and your cost on the right hand side. That doesn't really happen with a physical data center if you don't have a cloud, and you may just realize that you have subscribed to $2040 a month, which is almost, I mean, it's a huge amount. It's almost 3 lakh rupees per month, when you could have easily not had a GPU and just used any of the machine types that are already there and just pay $30 a month, which is hardly anything. So this is what cloud helps you do. And because it is so highly customizable, everything needs to be specified by us. So the team, actually, an organization needs a really good team that is proficient in cloud if they want to use infrastructure, any kind of infrastructure as a service offering. And Compute Engine is one example of that. Next, we have something called App Engine. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to toggle between my project again. I'm going to move to the no organization one, and I'm going to go to App Engine. App Engine is Google Cloud's a platform as a service offering. In that, I'm clicking on Create Project here, and I'm going to just choose this one, and I'm going to create a new project. Like, see, in this, I'm just 17 projects. See, this is another thing. You can manage your quotas. Like, I just got a notification. You have 17 projects remaining in your quota. So more than 17 projects you cannot, otherwise you'll be incurring a cost. So you know how to manage your time and money better. So in platform as a service, you just have to mention the project name, whatever you want to do. You have to choose the organization, and then you have to just choose the location where you want, and you just have to click on create. I'm not clicking on create because that's going to incur a cost. But as you can see, creating a new project is so much more simple in this. You don't have so many customization levels when it comes to App Engine. That is like a semi-furnished house. A little bit is specified by you, a little bit is specified by the cloud provider. And there are various software as a service offerings as well, but in the interest of time, you all must have seen Google Drive, Google Docs. So that is actually Workspace is kind of a software as a service offering. What do? You just create a folder. You just click on a little, for example, you want to create a folder in Google Drive. You just go click on create a folder. You create a folder for yourself, and that is it. You just have to mention permissions, like who needs to access what, and it's done. That is how software as a service offering works. You just have to go write your code and you're all done with that. If you don't want to write a code, something like Google Drive, just go create an app, create a file, create a folder, put in your data. You want to put a spreadsheet, put in all the data, give permissions, who needs to have editor of your access, and you're done with that. That's how it works. Cloud security. Now, this is getting really heavy. I'm moving deeper into this, and cloud security is extremely important and sometimes one of the most overlooked fields. But everyone wants their data to be secure, right? So, cloud security and understanding cloud security is very important. What is cloud security in the first place? It's not just services or tools that you are using, but it has a combination of technologies, processes, and policies to make sure your cloud is secure, and controls to make sure your application or your data is secure. What do I mean by all these terms? By technologies, I mean the different tools and services that's been provided to you by the cloud provider. Processes means we need to have a really strong process to make sure our data is secure. Because if we don't have a robust process, you won't be able to explain to people within and outside the organization why it is or how to make sure the data is secure. So you need to have really good processes, policies. By policies, I mean different policies around the data that's being stored. Like, for example, if your credit card data, you need to be in compliance with the regulatory compliance, let's say, regimes or regulatory compliance standards that are there in the industry. For example, PCI, to make sure the credit card data is secure, and controls to make sure that your data is secure on the cloud. Remember, cloud security is a shared responsibility, which means you cannot just leave everything out to Google Cloud and expect them to take care of all your security needs. But at the same time, you're not just left on your own. It's a really nice shared responsibility between the cloud provider and between the organization to make sure your data is secure on the cloud. So, because of that, we need to understand what different capabilities are being provided to you by Google Cloud Platform, whether they're in form of white paper, training, or third-party consultations. Like, you can have consultation with different compliance standards, experts from the industry, and what all controls and technologies are being provided to you, what all monitoring is being provided to you, just to make sure your data is completely secure on the cloud. Because your data is sometimes out in a shared environment, people have a lot of apprehension. Like, I was working in a company once that didn't really want to move to the cloud. They said, okay, our data is there. What if Google misuses our data? Remember, just because your data is on Google Cloud Platform doesn't mean that Google has open access to all your data. There are ways you can secure it from everyone, and that is called a zero trust model. Secure your data from yourself, people inside your company, people outside your company, and the cloud provider. And there are various ways of doing that. So when we do that, for example, using encryption, we encrypt the data, we have additional layers of encryption, or let's say there are different processes and policies you have around that. You can make sure that your data is completely secure from people within the organization or from people outside the organization or even the cloud provider. So remember that. I mean, security although is a really big concern, at the same time, you need to know what all is being provided to you, what all help you're getting from Google Cloud, what all help you can do for yourself, and what all resources are available to you to make sure you have a secure experience on the cloud. Next, we have the shared responsibility model. I've been talking about this now. So, security is a shared responsibility. What do I mean by that? So, every cloud platform has people, data, applications, and operating system involved. What do I mean by people? People, I mean the people inside and outside your organization who have access to your application. It may be you, your team members, the founder of your company, or the CEO, or it can also mean your end users, like people who are trying to gain access to your application. It's a shared responsibility, and people are extremely important in any kind of application. And you have to make sure that your data is secure and all people there have proper accesses and policies in place. Just a very simple example, when you go to Google Drive, you make sure that you have editor and viewer access correctly. Like, if someone doesn't need to go in and make any changes, you'll just give them a viewer access, right? Next, we have data. It's as simple as it sounds. Data is basically all the data that comes into your application. Sorry, and next we have applications, which is actually the physical application that we have out there. It can be a gaming application, it can be any kind of application that you have coded on the cloud, and we next we have the operating system. In infrastructure as a service, people are the responsibility of the organization, but data is the responsibility of the organization, applications, and operating system. So, what do I really mean by that? It means because infrastructure as a service is so highly customizable, any kind of security that accompanies people, which means you need to have the right identity and access management in place, data, which means you need to make sure data is encrypted, your data is stored well, your data is secure, applications, which means application level or let's say layer security, and finally the operating system, like if there are any security patches on your operating system, everything is the responsibility of the organization. This doesn't really mean that the cloud provider is not at all involved in this. They are involved in this. Like Google Cloud has encryption at rest, in storage, and in transit as well. So you just need to make sure how to use your resources well, because ultimately the burden of the responsibility falls on you if you're using an infrastructure as a service. But you can always take help from Google Cloud Platform, who are going to make sure that you have a good experience with security. Next, in platform as a service, just remember that's like a semi furnished house. So, people, data, and applications are your responsibility because you're in charge of them. But the operating system security patches or anything related to the security of the operating system is the responsibility of the cloud provider. That is because the operating system is provided to you by them. Just going back to the example we had just used. Finally, software as a service, people are your responsibility. Data is your responsibility. Applications are the application layer security is the responsibility of the cloud provider, and so is the operating system. Again, going back to Google Drive, because you people have been using it at some point or the other, all these security permissions that you give, whether it is viewer access, editor access, is this open to people on the internet? Can anyone with a link access it? Or do we need special permissions? All of that is being specified by you, right? People are your responsibility. Data is your responsibility. You need to make sure whatever is going inside is safe. Anything password protected you need to put inside, you can do that. You can put encrypted data. So just making sure that your data security is in place, that's your responsibility. But application layer security and operating system layer security is the responsibility of the cloud provider. Like you don't really go into any application on Google Drive and take care of the security patches and all. This is not an exhaustive list, like this is just a little bit of guidance that I'm giving you here. When it comes to the shared responsibility model, it can change depending upon the kind of conversations you have with your cloud provider. Like Google Cloud can take on more responsibility, take on more hands-off approach, depending upon how much you want or how less you want. Now, some of the security best practices. Identity and access management, which means that you need to make sure that all your identity and accesses are in place, which I've been talking about since some time. Make sure that you're giving the least privilege to people, which means if someone needs to go and view your application on the cloud, don't give them an editor access. If someone needs to maybe just make some minor changes, you can give them access only to that particular document inside the folder and not the entire folder. That is what identity and access management means. So this, because if you have really good policies around IAM, you can make sure that there are no unauthorized people or people who have more privilege than what is required just messing with your applications. Firewall is nothing but the ability to direct traffic that goes inside and outside your application, and just specifying rules around that. So it's like a window. You can see outside, like I'm just seeing outside my window. But if you have a tinted glass, people cannot see inside. It's as simple as that. So it's just directing the flow of the traffic. Next is active monitoring. As I've shown you on Google Cloud Platform, there on the right hand side, there's a monitoring. You can set up monitoring for yourself. You can just customize it the way you want to, but making sure that you're monitoring your surroundings is like having a CCTV camera. You're just making sure that there's no unauthorized people just roaming around, or people who don't really require to be lurking around, and you can address that immediately. Like for example, you have given someone, there's someone working inside your organization in a particular team, but suddenly you realize that they're trying to access documents that they're not supposed to. Monitoring can help you figure that out. And you can just talk to them, hey, why do you really need access to these documents? Because you don't really have any work with it, right? And at the same time, you can also have people outside the organization who are trying to just get in. So monitoring can help you catch all those attackers and hackers on time, and you can be proactive rather be reactive at a later point. Next, we have data encryption. Data encryption is nothing but storing the data in a very secret thing down, and suddenly everything gets converted to some special signs and symbols. Your data is encrypted. That is what encryption means. And you need to have really good encryption in transit, in storage, and in use, which means even when the data is moving through the application or the data has been used and getting stored in the application, everything needs to be encrypted. So attackers, even if they gain access at any point, they're not really able to make sense of what the data is about. Last, we have testing. So all these companies have testing teams. You have functional testers, you have automated testers, your manual testers, your penetration testers. So testing is nothing but testing your structure or application from within to find any vulnerabilities that the hackers can find out later, or the attackers. So basically, if you test your own structure or your own application from the inside, you can make sure that it is strong, and you can make sure that if there's any vulnerability, or by vulnerability I mean any kind of cracks or openings through which any of the hackers or attackers can come in, you can just make sure that you get that addressed and just raise it up to the development team and tell them, hey, I just found a break in your code, fix it for me before someone else gets access to it. That is what testing is all about. So these are some of the security best practices. There are more, but these are the ones that are being commonly followed, and at the minimum you need to remember all of this. Next, I've talked so much about Google Cloud Platform here. I've shown you a little bit of demo. But what next? We have talked so much about Google Cloud Platform. What if you want to learn more information or you want more? So in that case, there are various ways of gaining skills. Like you have online courses, you have professional certificates on Coursera, Cloud Guru, Udemy, edX, Upgrade Learning, and some of them are paid, some of them are free, some of them can be audited for free, or your college or let's say your organization can sometimes give you free access to these as well. So with these, actually, you can really help strengthen your cloud skills, and some of these professional certificates are very, very valuable in the industry as well. So you can just have this on your resume. You can learn more. For example, Coursera has courses taught by real Google Cloud advocates, like Google Cloud employees, their learning and development team. So you just get all your questions answered by them. You can just have see sessions and live demos and live labs created by them, and you can actually get a lot of hands-on as well. So 30 days of Google Cloud, those of you who are enrolled in it know that quick labs is actually really, really popular as well, and it is a great way for you to get hands-on cloud skills. Quick labs, QWIKLABS. And next we have gaining skills. Suppose you say that, okay, I have done all these online courses, I want to do some on-campus in-depth course. So you can actually do your masters, because most of you, I'm assuming, are in your undergraduate degree, or even you have a master's at this point. But you can do a master's in cloud computing, a master's in data science. You can do masters in cloud and network infrastructure if you're more into the network side of it. Or you can do masters in computer science with different concentrations. Like your concentration can be cloud computing, your concentration can be security if you're interested in that. And finally, masters in information assurance. Information assurance is nothing but security of the data or the information that's on the cloud, or even on premise, not just the cloud. So this would actually help you really get skills, and maybe if you want to go into research, or if you want to just study a little bit more, this would actually lay a good foundation for you. Next, talking about certifications. There's a lot of buzz around certifications now. You see people online, you see people posting about their certifications. So what are these certifications? Certifications are nothing actually but different levels, like foundations, associate, or professional level question bank that's been created by Google Cloud, in which you just have to give an exam to show them, or just to showcase your proficiency with a particular domain. Like you can just go in and you maybe foundations, we have this Google Cloud Digital Leader certification, in which you can prove that, okay, I know about all the products, all the services that's been provided by Google Cloud, I'm very well versed in Google Cloud, but how do I really show that to companies? Like, how can I put that on my resume? I cannot just say, hey, I'm good in Google Cloud, but I don't know how to show it. This is where certification comes in place. You have to sit for an exam, a 2 3 hour timed exam, and you have to answer questions. And if you have a passing mark, it's like just giving an examination. You will be certified by Google Cloud that you are proficient in a particular domain or a particular space that you have chosen. And it's foundation and associate and professional. Professional level requires you to have around 3 years of experience before giving, but associate and foundation are more beginner level certifications. So like I said, there are different kind of certifications that being provided to you. And network engineer, if you're interested in that, architect, DevOps, security, machine learning, developer. I'm sorry, yeah, developer. uh, I don't know how that moved on. Yeah. So these are some of the certifications that you can pursue for Google Cloud Platform depending upon what your concentration is in. Like for example, if DevOps is your concentration or you're interested in that, DevOps is nothing but streamlining the process from start to deployment. That's the thing for you. Security, machine learning. By machine learning, I mean artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms. If that's the thing you're interested in, you can always go ahead for that. So depending upon where you want to show your proficiency and where you have experience and where you want to go in as a when you join your industry or when you join a job, you can always choose from one of these certifications. Now, I'll just give a certification preview of what all certifications are available and how you can actually use them. Now, if you go onto the Google Cloud certification page, you can view all the certifications that are being provided to you. So, which certification is right for you? You have the foundation, associate, and professional, and it shows that what all level and what all proficiency is required for that. So, for foundation, you have the Google Cloud Digital Leader, which doesn't really require you to have a lot of hands on cloud, but you should know about all the products and services that's being provided. Next, you have the associate level certification, which means you need at least 6 months building on cloud, or you need to have completed the quick lab quest and everything. So at least you have some kind of experience when you're going in and writing the exam. And professional has all of these that I just discussed a while ago. Of course, if you want the Looker certification, you can do that as well. And right now, Google Cloud has 30 days of Google Cloud going on, and they are providing 1 month of free access to Coursera courses, and which you can actually use training to give your certification. You can just make use of that as well. You can go to Coursera, choose a professional certificate, and you can just learn without really having to pay anything. So once you click on this, you'll be actually sent to a page where you can schedule your certification exam. You can schedule it online. You can go in and give it in person if you really don't have a space at home to give it. And that kind of flexibility is provided to you. So once you complete the certification, you get a certificate from Google certifying that you are proficient in that particular field. You can write that certification on your resume, show it to your company, and that really helps you showcase your talent and proficiency. Now, finally, research opportunities. If you're into research, you can actually do your research in big data, cloud security. Let's say artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. You can do it in DevOps, cloud cryptography if you're interested in that, cloud load balancing, Internet of Things, green cloud computing, or containerization. Rest of the terms I've discussed a little bit throughout the presentation, but what is Internet of Things? Basically, if you see right now, some of you might be using a tablet to see this presentation, some of you might be using your mobile, you might be using your monitor or laptop. So we need to make sure that every application is optimized for all of these devices. Sometimes even a watch, they're optimized for all of these devices. So that is where Internet of Things comes in. So it's basically optimizing your performance, optimizing the viewership or the UI UX for any kind of application to make sure they're running smoothly on any kind of device that you're using. And in an interconnected world, the connectivity is going well. And it's a really hot field right now. Next, we have the green cloud computing, which is basically focusing on the environment because we want to make sure that in our quest to get really high in technology, we don't damage the environment too much. That is where green cloud computing comes in, where carbon emission from different data centers is calculated. You want to reduce the carbon emission or you want to just counter it with something else. That is what green cloud computing is all about. Now, some of the prominent journals, in case you want to write and you want to get you have a lot of cloud knowledge published, there's this Journal of Cloud Computing, Advanced Systems and Applications. You have the IEEE Cloud Computing Journal. You have International Journal of Cloud Computing, Journal of Systems and Software, the Journal of Cloud Computing, and finally the IGCSIS, which is the International Journal of computer science and information security. I'll be sharing this presentation later with Shankla, so I mean she can just share it with all of you. But these are some of the prominent journals where you can get your work published, and that will really help you get noticed in the industry as well. Now, thank you so much for listening through my presentation. We have 10 minutes left for question answers. And if you want to connect with me, you can visit my website, clouddemystified.com. It is cloud-demystified.com, where I'm using comics and very simple infographics to explain cloud fundamentals and best practices. And it has a list of all my talks in case you just want to click on the talk and listen to some of the past presentations I've given. You can connect with me on LinkedIn if you have any questions outside of this, or just remember a question when you go to bed tonight, or you just want to stay connected for mentorship opportunities. And I'm available on Twitter as well. So thank you. I'll just let the screen remain for some time, and I'll just hand this over to you, Shrankla, if you have any questions.
Okay, so while you were like going through the presentation, there were so many comments over there, and I see few of them you have already answered in your
Mhm.
slides, and the questions were before that. So let's just go through the comments.
Mhm.
Okay, so someone from Tarangna has mentioned what are some good resources to learn cloud computing. I think this you have already mentioned in your slide.
Mhm.
Again, the question is what are opportunities present in cloud? Again, I think this you have mentioned. Like, would you again like to mention it? Vijita, I hope
Yeah.
I'm audible.
Yeah. So when we're talking about opportunities, like when you, like I said, there are different opportunities available, whether you want to go into a professional industry, like if you want to go into a professional organization, or you want to get into research, or you want to study more. So if you get into research, like I said, there are a lot of, let's say, research opportunities available in cloud computing, security, or the various things that I had mentioned in my slides. But if you want to go into the industry, you can join as a cloud engineer. So as a cloud engineer, you can sometimes help with the administrative task, or you can actually also help with some of the day-to-day workings. Like Google Cloud has many partners. There are a lot of opportunities available with some of the best prominent partners in Google Cloud. They were also featured in Cloud Next if some of you had actually attended it. And these cloud these partners actually provide products to different companies built on top of Google Cloud platform. So in that, if you're really good at coding, you can join as a cloud engineer. If you want to join as an engagement manager, like if you're more into the program management or the management side of the cloud, or let's say if you're a digital leader, you can always explore that. And depending upon your area of interest, like if you're into security, you can always join as a security engineer with some of these cloud partners. Or of course, Google Cloud also has Google also has a lot of teams within their own company, which you can join. I mean, they have a service based team that actually interact a lot with partners. So depending upon what your interest is, like I know some people who are really good at speaking and they want to become a developer advocate, for example, an evangelist, a cloud evangelist. That also is available for you. So, depending upon the kind of exposure you have, the kind of background you have, there are a lot of opportunities present. So, I would really suggest going through a list of Google Cloud partners that could be found on the Google Cloud website and seeing what all opportunities they have available. And you can just explore them according to your passion and according to where you want to go.
Yeah, so I see it's like an umbrella and it covers everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the next question we have is from Soumya. Is like, is 30 days of cloud really worth it?
So, depending upon what your aim is, I can just answer this question. Like, there are some people who just join 30 days of cloud because they want to get swags. I'll be really honest.
Yeah, I have
Like,
seen many of them.
yeah, I mean, just getting a participation certificate and getting a swag, if that is the end aim, worth it. You get a bag, you get stickers. But if it's more about the learning opportunities that's been provided to you, number one, you have free resources available, like which is otherwise extremely expensive. Coursera, for example, each month can cost you somewhere around 3,500 to 4,000 sometimes as well. So it's really expensive sometimes. So all those resources are being provided to you for free, number one. And next is you have a lot of mentors in this 30 days of Google Cloud. So people you can ask questions from, people you can get your answers to. And because that's always not available otherwise. Like you need to really hunt for mentors. Like I've had a really high time finding good mentors who can just guide me on cloud. With 30 days of Google Cloud, you actually have mentors at your disposal. There are people who can talk to you, people who are experts in the industry. You can always learn a lot from them and grow your career. And next is Quick Labs. Quick Labs is also not it's not really cheap. So sometimes just to form a quest and all, you need quick lab credits for which you have to pay money. 30 days of Google Cloud actually lets you complete quest for free, so you can just have those badges and you can publish it on your website, you can publish it on your LinkedIn profile, for example, or even on your resume. And most important, actually, it showcases your proficiency, like depending upon the amount of quests that you have completed, depending upon the amount of knowledge you have gained. It is like an accreditation from Google Cloud that you have completed all of this and you have this level of proficiency in Google Cloud. And more than anything, it is a really good way to jumpstart your career in cloud, because this actually sets the foundation or the base for you. So, if sometimes I know some people who have done 30 days of Google Cloud and realize that cloud is not the thing for them, which is also completely fine. So, you won't be ending 5, 6 years of your life doing cloud and then realizing, hey, this is not the thing for me. This is not my passion. So basically, it's what you want to make out of it. So if you want to use it completely to your advantage, and how you want to utilize this time. So yes, that's my answer.
So I think like you should give it a try, and you should definitely see that whether it is working or not working for you.
Exactly, and just use this as a foundation to network, to meet people, to just learn more from people, because you never know what course things may take sometimes. So definitely, it's worth it. Just give it a try, do it, and if not anything, it actually going to help build your confidence on cloud, because it's not really like you saw whenever I was deploying the virtual machines. Everything incurs a cost. With 30 days of Google Cloud, you have free trial as well, so you can just use that to play around with cloud and learn a lot more. So.
Okay. Soumya is again asking, is there any other server other than Google Cloud Platform?
So, just a clarification here, Google Cloud Platform is not a server. It is a platform that's been provided to you, and you can deploy your service in that. So, Google Cloud Platform is nothing but a list, or let's say a collection of services and products that's being provided to you by Google for running your applications. Amazon Web Services is another one, which is handled by Amazon. Azure is another one, which is handled by Microsoft, and Oracle Cloud, for example, by Oracle. So these are examples of the public cloud providers. There are many private cloud providers, which I'm not really going to go into details right now. But yes, there are many, many platforms that you can use, and depending upon your requirement, on your comfort, you can choose any of those. My personal preference is Google Cloud, because that's what I've been exposed to and that's what I've been really comfortable with, and it's actually really fast growing one. So Soumya, yes, there are more actually. If depending upon what your needs are, what your requirements are, what your comfort level is. Amazon Web Services, as of now, is the most widely adopted because they are the oldest and the most streamlined one right now. But Google Cloud is also picking up well. Microsoft Azure is used more by defense and other industries who also have a high reliance on Microsoft documents like Excel, PowerPoint, if they have been using that on premise, because there's a good integration between that. And Oracle Cloud also, it's really, really popular. So depending upon what your needs and requirements are, companies can actually decide, and that's where partners come in, like Deloitte, Accenture. They are also really good cloud partners. Sometimes companies just go up to them and say, hey, we want to actually move our applications to the cloud, or we want to build an application on cloud. They will help them choose who is the right cloud provider for them. Google Cloud is one of them. So yes, there are a lot more.
Even I have my some of my friends who have deployed their projects on Amazon Web Services and with the help of Google Cloud.
Right, right.
Okay. So the next question is from Subhajit, and he's saying, "Hi, is there any Google Cloud Computing Institute available in Kolkata?"
That's difficult question for me to answer, Subhajit, because I'm not from Kolkata and I don't really have any background there. But definitely, you can just search online if there's anything, and you can read up the reviews. And the best thing to go about it is, when I was doing my college search, see if there's a particular college you're interested in, go through their coursework, go through the syllabus that they're covering, go to the courses that they're covering, and see if it's really exhaustive or they're just scratching the surface, because you don't want anything that just scratches the surface, right? Something that goes really in depth. And after that, you can contact people on LinkedIn who are doing courses from that particular university or college. So they can actually give you an honest picture of whether this is going to meet your needs or not. So you can just send an email to people on LinkedIn and just reach out to them. Or if there's an email ID available, you can just reach out to them on the email ID. I think that will be a good way to go about it. And like I said, be very, very, pay a lot of attention on the coursework and the content that's being outlined for you. Because then you will know whether it is really exhaustive, whether it's scratching the surface, whether it meets your needs or not. For example, you're not a very high on development, but this course is really, really heavy on development and coding. You want to get into AIML, but they don't have any AIML course in the semester. So then it's not really worth it. So I think that's the best way to go about it.
I hope that answers Subhajit. Next question we have from Manjeet, and he's asking, can you give some examples of projects working on Google Cloud?
Of course, I can. So I just do one thing. Just give me a second. There's a really good website or really good resource that's been published by Google Cloud, and it's called the Cloud Case Studies. So, Google Cloud customers. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just briefly share my screen and show you what I mean. So if you go on to this cloud.google.com/customers, you can see all the customers that are with Google Cloud. So these are some of the companies around the world who are on Google Cloud, and some of the toughest challenges that are solved with Google Cloud. So basically, like you said, the projects. So in retail, finance services, media and entertainment, you can just see, I mean, how they have implemented technology, how they have implemented Google Cloud for really good, just solving some of their problems. And you can click on any of these. For example, I can just click on, I'm just changing the region actually to India so you people can understand better. Asia Pacific and Japan. LG, for example. So when we click on this LG, so they use data analytics solution with Google or AI, which is for AI, artificial intelligence, and HTPU, which will provide a great value to the customers in smart factory arena. So basically, this would show you a list of what all services they are using, and if there's a case study, you can always click on read case study. Gojek, for example, they have used machine learning for forecasting dynamic pricing. So this is a new startup, and they have used Google Cloud Platform and Google Maps for establishing themselves for multi-service platform as one of the few unicorn businesses in Southeast Asia. So what have they done? So Google Cloud results, it's supporting this much, it's enabling demand forecasting, it's positioning businesses for international expansion, manages up to 5 TB data per day. And what was the problem? So traffic congestion was a problem for them, and this was solved by Google Cloud. So also they have used Google Maps. And if you read the entire case study, you'll be able to get a really good idea of what their problem was, how that problem was solved, and how they are actually leveraging the power of Google Cloud. So depending upon your area and the kind of information you need, you can just see a very short video if you don't want to read the entire case study. Or if you're more into reading the case study and going into the details, that's also available for you. So, like I said, I'll just show the website. It is cloud.google.com/customers. And you can just use this particular website to read all the case studies that lays out the projects and the successes used for Google Cloud Platform. So you can find more information here because they are going to cover a lot more than an example that I can give right now. But
Okay,
mostly, many
even
people
I
are
wasn't aware that there's so many like companies working on the Google Cloud platform.
There is, and you can actually read the case studies because not everyone is moving their infrastructure. So, Pizza Hut, for example, recently, the map that you are using, it is on Google Cloud Platform. So, anything, I mean, you can just go through the case studies and see some of the major projects that people have done on Google Cloud Platform.
Okay, so we are already over time, and Manjit is saying very informative session,
Mhm, thank you.
and I think we should say goodbye to Vijita. Vijita, would you like to say anything to the audience?
No, I mean, thank you so much for attending, first of all. And if you want, have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to answer them for you. And definitely do participate in 30 days of Google Cloud. Some of you might have already participated, it's already midway. But I mean, yeah, that's all I have to say. And keep exploring the cloud and just understanding, I mean, what all capabilities and advantages that come with it. So,
Yeah.
and thank you so
I'll
much, Shankla, for
attach your
attending.
LinkedIn in the description. So if anybody has any doubts, they can reach out to you.
Sure. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Uh, Thank you everybody for joining in, and we'll bring more such sessions. Please subscribe to the Scholarship channel.
Thanks. Thanks, Shankla. Bye bye.